Ray Bradbury. Wow, what a guy, what a guy. This man created amazing things. He wrote nearly 50 books and hundreds of short stories that have led and will continue to lead to inspire children of ages to come. Mr. Bradbury was born on August 22nd in 1922 in Waukegan, Illinois. He became a writer when he was about 12 or 13 years old, and writing was one of his most interesting things to do. He loved doing it. Also, he liked magicians and fiction books and science fiction as well. He published his first short story in a newspaper in 1938. After graduating high school, he figured out that he did not have enough money to go to college, so he just spent all his time at the library for 10 years. And in the library, something amazing happened as well during his life. He wrote a book that will continue to inspire thousands of people over the years, Fahrenheit 451. This book has taught us about love, fear, hate, rebellion, anger, and most importantly, in our opinion, technology. And here is why.
Hello. I read Fahrenheit 451. I did the seashells as my research. I mainly looked into parts of the book about Mildred, and I believe, to put it out there, I believe that he used her to represent the common citizen of the world that he describes. So, first thing I found about these seashells was it discusses in the book that Mildred uses the seashells to fall asleep every night, and that she has a dependency of the seashells. And she wouldn't be able to fall asleep without them. And she also uses other stuff to help her fall asleep, but in the book it describes, as a text example I have here, in her ears the little seashells, the thimble radios tamps tight, and an electric ocean of sound and music and talk coming in on the shore of her unsleeping mind. The room was indeed empty. Every night the waves came in and bore her off on the great tides of sound, floating her wide-eyed toward morning. There had been no night in the last 2 years when Mildred had not swum that sea, and had not gladly gone down it for a third time. So this says that Mildred absolutely needs the seashells to fall asleep, and I think Ray Bradbury was depicting the dependency that we have on technology. And another thing I found was he describes how she's listening to the seashells really loud. And if we can imagine these seashells as the earbuds we have today, we know that listening to earbuds on loud volumes can really damage your ears a lot. And we also know that, of course, if you have something blasting in your ear at really high volume, you're not going to be paying much attention to the things around you. What I think he's describing here is that Mildred really doesn't care that her ears are getting damaged, or she can't pay, or she doesn't care about anything else around her. That's all she's interested in. Another example I found was it mentioned Mildred had learned how to read lips, so she wouldn't have to take the seashells off. And what got me thinking was the text example I have here. The book mentioned she was an expert at lip reading from 10 years of apprenticeship at Seashell Ear Thimbles. And judging from the text, I imagined this is something similar to a modern computer class. You're learning how to use a product and how to use it right, but it seems so pointless to learn how to read lips, so you wouldn't have to take your seashells off for 2 seconds to hear someone. And what really excited my brain was the thought of how she devoted 10 years to this thing and skills like learning how to lip read. And it seems like a normal person today wouldn't possibly have time to devote 10 years to something as simple as that. And I know this book was written when many families still followed the custom that the husband might go out and do all the work and bring in income while the wife would take care of the house. And but when I talked to my aunt, who is a stay-at-home mom herself, she sounds like her day's pretty meaningful. She volunteers and cleans and cooks and does a bunch of stuff that takes up her entire day. So I thought to myself, is technology helping all this stuff, these helping Mildred do all this stuff? Has she ever done anything meaningful in her life? Or does she not care if her house gets piled up with dirtiness and stuff? So, I think Ray Bradbury was yet again talking about how people didn't care and maybe further dependency on technology, and also convincing the reader that this person never did anything meaningful, and it's a waste of their person if they never do anything important or meaningful. And so, in conclusion, when I first chose the topic of the seashell ear thimbles, I didn't think I would have much material, because they weren't really mentioned very much in the book, just a few select pages where it had a lot of passages about it. But as I researched and thought about it and typed, I found lots of message to put into this. And I believe Ray Bradbury is a master writer to cram all this message into such small passages.
Up. That's the direction Ray Bradbury predicted TV technology to go. Today, he is the only fortune teller who can actually tell the future. I'm going to tell you one way Ray Bradbury was correct in his prediction, but also one way that he was wrong. He thought that both TV size and TV popularity would increase, and he was partially correct, but not entirely. But the amount he was correct is so amazing, I'm going to tell you about it right now. Starting with how popularity increased. According to a study published by New York Times in 2010, the average American watches about 34 hours of TV a week, which comes down to about an average of 4.8 hours of TV a day. Not only that, but according to the same study, the average American home has 2.86 TV sets, which is more than the average number of people per home, which is 2.5. So yes, this proves that TV has taken over our lives, like Ray Bradbury predicted. And it's getting more popular by the second, too. At the rate that its popularity is increasing, it won't be long before we sit in rooms with fake cousins having conversations on the walls. A scary thought, but a true one nonetheless. Obviously, what I'm telling you isn't good information unless I give you an example in the book. So here it is. Of course, why hadn't they done it before? Why in all the years hadn't this game been tried? Everyone up, everyone out. He couldn't be missed. The only man running alone in the night. The only man proving his legs. This quote was from when Montag was on the run, and the police knew that every single person in the city had a TV. So if they told them to look out their window, then they would obviously see him. I'm pretty sure that if every person in the entire city has something, it's probably pretty popular. Interestingly though, because of the parlor's size and versatility, there is never any need for multiple parlors in one house. Not that there's any need now, but having more means you never have to wait for other people to stop using TV. And you can watch it all day, sit around really doing nothing. Although it could be argued that TV is stimulating to your imagination, like they thought in The Veldt. Speaking of The Veldt, I think this is actually an interesting point, because both stories are by the same amazing author, which happens to be Ray Bradbury. Both stories involve a kind of technology that stimulates the senses by surrounding you with a screen through which these stimuli are projected. Obviously they're similar, but you already knew that. The important thing is that they also have two key differences. The first being that in The Veldt, objects are actually generated to satisfy the children's imagination, while in Fahrenheit, objects are simply projected around you. The second difference between the two is that in the nursery and The Veldt, it was interactive like a video game, while in Fahrenheit 451, the electric parlors have certain programs that you can switch through, which is almost identical to TV right now. The only real distinction among the two is that parlors surround you entirely while TV is on a flat plane. I find it somewhat unusual, actually, that Bradbury didn't make more use of parlors, or make parlors more interactive in Fahrenheit. The idea of video games was floating around in his time, and from the belt it can be assumed that he knew of it, so it's not entirely clear why I didn't go into depth with it. But a master such as Ray Bradbury probably had a good reason, and a better one than I can think of. But seeing as it would be impossible to find out what that reason is, I'll give you my best guess. With several technologies in Fahrenheit 451, it seems as though bigger is better. 200-foot-long billboards, higher speed limits, and bigger screens all fall into this category. Yet the opposite has happened. Billboards have stayed the same size. Speed limits have gotten slower. And we're using a lot of small screen devices because they're more portable instead of larger ones. The point is that instead of TVs getting bigger and surrounding us, they've gotten smaller and more interactive in our pockets. Bradbury even said that he thought this in his own words, or more specifically through the words of Clarice. Have you seen the 200-foot billboards out in the country beyond town, she says? Did you know that billboards used to be only 20 feet long? Cars started rushing by so quickly they had to stretch it out so it would last. In other words, cars used to go slower, billboards used to be smaller, but when cars went faster, billboards got bigger in response. And something similar happened to most everything else in the strange and twisted, yet vaguely familiar world of Fahrenheit 451. So yes, Ray Bradbury was both right and wrong in his predictions. The TV industry has grown larger like he thought it would, but instead of TVs getting bigger, a lot of small screen devices have started having prominent roles in our lives. And once again, Ray Bradbury is not only the greatest fortune teller, but also the world's greatest author as well.
This man, Ray Bradbury, was like an artist. He shaped phrases with color, exuberance, and detailed emotion. I'm about to recite a group of sentences that he crafted with his typewriter in the basement of a library. I think Ray Bradbury was also an inventor. He thought of a future of violence and war. So he thought of a weapon people in 2013 could use. He thought of a hound, a vicious, terrifying, mechanical hound. The hound slept but did not sleep, lived but did not live. In its gently humming, gently vibrating, soft illuminated kettle, back in the dark corner of the firehouse. The hound, as he calls it, is not a dog. No, it is a mechanical dog. It has no life but pretends to live one. It has no brain. It only does what it tells you to do. The light touched here and there on the brass and the copper and the steel of the faintly trembling beast. Light flickered on bits of ruby glass and on sensitive capillary hairs in the nylon-brushed nostrils of the creature that quivered gently, gently, and its eight legs spidered under it on rubber-padded paws. Ray Bradbury paints a picture in the mind of the reader. He describes a metal beast sitting in the corner of the firehouse, waiting for a mission, a task to complete, waiting there, trembling and glowing in the nightlight. In 2013, drones were created to do the same thing as the hound mentioned by Ray Bradbury. Hunt and kill without a human soul. It's already difficult today to feel that war is not real. But think how hard it would be if no one in your country even really went to war. War would turn into a video game. Imagine teenagers running around left and right, killing. Who cares? It's only a video game. What's so scary about a video game? It won't affect anybody. There's a dehumanizing factor in drones, and Ray Bradbury predicted that. He predicted that technology would change and corrupt us. He predicted that. I have to admit that he frightens me, but only because he was right, because he's always right. Therefore, I think Ray Bradbury was an oracle.
I would like to begin with a quote from this marvelous book, Fahrenheit 451, written by Ray Bradbury. And something more, it listens. If you Montag, I can sit comfortably at home, warming my frightened bones, and hear and analyze the fireman's world, find its weaknesses without danger. Here in 2013, this quote leads us to believe that Ray Bradbury may have had the ability to see the future. Throughout the book, Mr. Bradbury talks about these green bullets. He thought of them himself. It was his original idea that one day we would have these small, portable contraptions that could help us communicate with others. Faber and Montag used them throughout Fahrenheit 451. In the chase/battle scene, Faber helps guide Montag against Beatty, and later, Faber ends up relaying news to Montag. Eventually, Beatty sees the green bullet in Montag's ear and grabs it, disconnecting Montag from Faber, and making Montag have to complete the rest of his journey on his own. In order to think about what these green bullets are today, we need to take a step back and wonder, well, so what do these green bullets look like? Well, they're about the size of a .22 caliber bullet, so pretty small, portable, and would fit snugly inside your ear. And what do? They help Montag communicate with Faber. So what does this all mean, you ask? Well, Mr. Bradbury may have really been able to see the future. He dreamt up seemingly impossible things at that time, and that is now this. A Bluetooth headset device. It sounds very complicated, but really this device is quite simple. It's a cell phone that basically just fits right into your ear. You can talk wirelessly with anyone, anywhere, anytime. So, you know what that sounds exactly like? Mr. Bradbury's contraption in Fahrenheit 451. It's almost as if an inventor read the book and then thought, you know what, that's a great invention. I think I'll make that. This green bullet